Hello, everyone. Welcome to Build with Mapbox 2025, the annual event where we explore the latest in mapping and navigation technologies. Today and throughout the week's agenda, we will be sharing exciting updates about the Mapbox platform and showcasing the dynamic community of companies and developers building with Mapbox. My name is Marina Smith, and I'll be your keynote host today and for many sessions throughout the week. Today's keynote is a bold one, exploring what it means and what it takes to build the very best maps in the world today. Our special guests from TripAdvisor will reveal how they have approached the launch of their new maps and the goal of creating the world's best map for travelers. But first, we'll start with insights from three leaders at Mapbox: our CTO and member of the founding Mapbox team, Hahn; Cherie Wong, our SVP of Location Services; and our Director of Engineering for our new Location AI team, Angela Navarro. Welcome to our panel. Now, panelists, first, let's give folks some context on where you're coming from. Tell us, from your perspective, what is a map today when so much about how we use information and technology is in flux? Where do maps fit in, and how are they changing?
Hey everybody. When we started Mapbox as a platform, really the world of maps was so different. I started at Mapbox, and many of the founding members, we started really using maps as a tool to help our customers at the time understand their data, to help visualize it, to help understand what were the patterns and stories going on in their data. And that's why we created Mapbox, version 0, right, was to develop the tools that our customers and you all would need, and that we ourselves would need to really make sense of the data that we were working with at the time and that our customers are trying to make sense of. And really over the years, what's really changed about Mapbox since then is that we've gone from that visualization and understanding of the world stage to really being alongside our customers, whether that's a customer who's trying to take the car that they just bought and navigate a new city, or a delivery driver who's trying to get you your next meal or your grocery deliveries, or folks who are going to really taking some of the new technology out there and really trying to understand their data still more deeply, but now in just a very different landscape in terms of what insights they can gain. And so a lot has changed over the years, but at the same time, the map is really a tool that lives alongside us as what we're trying to accomplish in our tasks, whether that's getting places in the real world, or also really driving insights in what we're looking at in our own data. And so when we look at the way that technology is changing today, and with agents and AI that Cherie and Angela will share a bit about how we're working through, and I'll share as well, we still see that maps are a critical part of every use case, really, that involves people engaging with the world. And I think all of our products ultimately have some way that we're trying to help our customers and users engage with the world. And so that's why I think you'll see in so many different ways how core the map is to all of our different businesses that we're running and the experiences that we're trying to serve to our users and customers.
Yeah, that's so interesting, Young, to think of the journey of a map. And of course, you've been doing this for a long time. When I first started working on maps, my focus was on data. And in particular, I was trying to understand how maps change and what we can learn about that change from the way people move through the world. And that's when I came to see maps as more than static tools and started to understand this idea of the living map that says that maps are almost like organisms that are constantly changing and evolving. And I find fascinating that maps both evolve with our own understanding of the world, but there's also a duality of sorts because they serve as a kind of archive documenting human knowledge across time. When you look at those early maps, when humans first started navigating, you instantly get a sense of what we knew back then. And in that way, maps are a little bit like time machines, simple and yet super powerful databases of human knowledge. And the fun part for me is that we never stop changing. Technology is always evolving. And every time new technologies emerge, the map evolves too. Right now, with Gen AI, we're entering a really big transformation. AI opens up new ways for a map not only to represent the world, but also to help us reason through it and make decisions, which in my opinion is a super exciting time. because the definition of the map right now is sort of full of new possibilities.
Young and Angela have so much more experience with maps. For me, I used to think of maps and navigation as mostly solved problems. And by that, I mean that as someone who used to just be an end consumer of maps, it seemed like I had all the services I needed, and what more could there be to do, really? But since joining Mapbox last year, I've realized there's so much more going on behind the curtain to make me believe that this was such a solved problem, because Mapbox is the map in so many of the apps that I use. We have to collate, validate, and curate map data from over 100 different sources, and there are complexities in managing a global data set of points of interest that are constantly changing. And then there's fine-tuning the map styling to make it informative and visually appealing in a way that addresses a wide range of consumer use cases. And that's just to see things on a map. There's even more complexity and nuance to helping people navigate between them. I used to think it was a very straightforward question. Just find me the shortest path that gets me there the fastest. But the reality is that there are tens, hundreds, maybe more combinations of ways to get from point A to point B. And the combinations of those may involve more turns or other maneuvers, or preferences for staying on major roads or highways, or preferences for avoiding them. And then there's everything that's impacting it in real time, like traffic and incidents and closures. And it's not like you can just select one route and you're done. You need to continuously evaluate alternatives for your navigator as the environments or their preferences dictate. So these are very difficult problems to solve for. Working with the teams across Mapbox, I've come to appreciate just how much goes into making really beautiful and accurate maps that have amazing coverage and a really engaging experience, and having real world interactions be intuitive and reasonable and optimal at the same time. Location is so fundamental to so many aspects of modern life and business. It's far from a solved problem, but it's an area that has a lot of potential for optimization and generating new value. Whether that's something like the 88% fleet efficiency gains that Kraken will be speaking about on Wednesday, or a 70% lift in user engagement that our good friends at TripAdvisor will be sharing shortly. There's so much more work to do and so much room for innovation and impact. By working collaboratively with our customers and developers across Mapbox and its community, we can literally help transform almost any industry. So it's really exciting to be working on a platform of services with such an extensive and varied scope of impact.
I love that, Cherie. Thanks for setting the stage. Let's stay on that about the challenges and what it takes to build the best map in the world today. What is something hard that you and your teams are solving for this year? Cherie, let's continue with you.
Well, with Mapbox Standard, our goal is to provide map makers and map builders with a customizable 3D base map that balances true-to-life detail with symbolic realism. Up until now, we've represented most buildings as cubes, these fill extrusions that we generate based on the building footprint and height data. We heard feedback from developers that they wanted more detail on the 3D buildings, and we enable developers to add that detail. So for example, a real estate company that wants their buyers to see what the building facade looks like, or a logistics company that wants to illustrate where the loading docks are, or an on-demand delivery or rideshare service that needs to know where things are in a large mall or transit hub. But providing the means to customize wasn't sufficient because they were spending a lot of time sourcing their own building metadata and importing their own models. And that can also cause performance issues, which then they need to go and debug and resolve. So if we put our customer hat on, how can we just deliver amazing symbolic representations of the world for them? And we've been tackling this in several ways. First, we ramped up the availability of detailed models of major landmarks and complex structures like airports or malls, places where navigating to very specific locations is kind of a well-known pain point. But that still leaves us with all the other buildings. Working with automakers in particular, we've tested how building details, for example, their entrances, windows, facades, roof lines, help to provide these subtle but recognizable cues to improve orientation and wayfinding, particularly in dense urban areas. We found there are many applications where spatial context and visual appeal make maps more useful to end users. So we know it matters. And then the question was how to do it. How do you make all of these buildings more symbolically realistic? And more importantly, how do we do it at scale? Because a lot of this data isn't readily available. You can get some details in the building metadata, but it's much less prevalent than your footprint data. So in order to have sufficient coverage in most cities, we had to find a way to create it ourselves. Specifically, we're using procedural generation of building models, using machine learning based on available map data and styling rules. Procedural generation produces detailed 3D building models dynamically at runtime instead of using pre-made assets. And this allows us to scale coverage well beyond the scope of manually created models. We're very close to releasing the initial cities with procedural buildings coverage, and I'm excited to share that it will be available generally to everyone using Mapbox Standard, which is a great example of how our collaborations with individual customers fuel the improvements that we roll out to everyone on the Mapbox platform. I know this has been impactful for our automakers and our navigation experience, and I know Young has also been really excited about it.
Yeah, we're super excited for how the procedural buildings are going to really enhance our navigation experience. It's really part of, I think, a trend we've been seeing at Mapbox, where we're trying to make the overall journey in navigation more cohesive and more connected. And as Cherie mentioned, we want to also make sure that it's really, even as we add all these levels of additional detail, they're serving the driver and the end user in the most efficient and legible way possible. So we don't want to clutter the screen. We want to leave as much control to the developer and designers of our customers as possible, where they can make adjustments to what their use case requires. But what we're finding is that for us as a team, it means we need to provide higher and higher levels of data detail and fidelity, and really expand the kind of data coverage that you've come to expect from Mapbox. And so in the Mapbox 3D Live navigation experience, you've probably seen that we posted quite a bit about our work in this area. All of the fine detail road data that's required for this is stuff that Mapbox has worked on producing in a way that's really scalable and sensible, to use as much of the sensor data from vehicles and other fleets as possible. So details like lanes, speeds, road markings, signs, the exact construction of a particular exit ramp or slip lane. All of these things are things that some other players have tried to do with manual data methods, and we just know that's not going to scale. And so our team is really taking a sensor first and ML first approach to creating all this data. And we've really been very fortunate to have automotive partners who have been understanding to integrate that in and really test it out together with us. And we're really excited about the results that we're seeing together with those partners. And it's something that we're excited because it's going to go to all of our customers as well, no matter what industry they're in.
Yeah, I would say also, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jan.
Oh, go ahead, Angela.
I would say that right now there's also a challenge that sort of goes beyond data accuracy and coverage and really good maps and navigation. And that challenge is the map interface itself and how it should be evolving with AI. Think about how quickly our expectations of technology are changing with LLMs and chatbots and the new search engines. We're no longer satisfied with just information. We expect answers. We want them fast, contextual, personalized. Maps have always been tools, like Yang was saying, always been tools for reasoning through space. They really help us figure things out. But what does it look like if the map does some of that reasoning with us? One question that I keep coming back to is, what if you could talk to a map? Not just search the map, but really talk to it and ask questions that you would ask a friend or a local who knows the area you're in really well. Or imagine maybe you're driving home from work, you need to pick up food or drop off a package. Instantly, there's a dozen small decisions that come up. What's still open? How's traffic? Is there parking? Should you go first to the store or should you go first to the post office? Right now, you do all of that reasoning in your head. But imagine a map that could handle all of those intermediate steps for you. A map that doesn't just show you options, but instead helps you get things done. I think that vision is super exciting, but also a really, really big challenge. And that's where the teams are focusing on today, beyond all of the things that you, of course, know Mapbox for. We're making chatbots more intelligent with location awareness, grounded in the real world. We're supporting developers adopting AI coding agents, redefining the map interface itself, making it more interactive and more conversational, and ultimately more helpful. And to this end, I do want to share that we have released 2 different MCP servers over the past couple of months, and we're working on a location agent that can give any customer map reasoning capabilities. We'll be sharing more about those MCP servers and the location agent in sessions both today and tomorrow that I hope you will join, because I think this is easily one of the most exciting evolutions that we have seen with maps in a little while.
Yes, let's stay on that a little longer with you, Angela. I think for my last question to you all, Build with Mapbox is our annual developer conference. What's something new from Mapbox that you're excited about because of how it benefits developers? So yeah, Angela, you want to continue?
For sure. I personally am super excited about our MCP Dev Kit because it is going to accelerate the way developers build with Mapbox. Dev Kit, in case you are not familiar with it, gives coding agents Mapbox expertise so developers can really easily create useful and beautiful maps. We believe that building with Mapbox should be easy for everyone, actually, and this is a really big step in that direction. I'm also excited about the MCP server for AI agents. It opens up an entirely new set of possibilities for creating map applications, and I'm really excited to see what customers and the developer community will come up with when they start combining agents with maps in a novel way. There are dedicated sessions on both the MCP servers tomorrow if you'd like to dive deeper. Maybe the last thing I'll mention is the launch of the feedback agent, which is a really good example of using voice and agentic technology to improve the map itself by collecting and integrating user feedback directly into applications. There is a session in the feedback agent this afternoon, and if you're interested in bringing the end user voice directly into your mapping applications, I think you should really check it out.
Marina, I think one product I'm very excited about, for our developers, it's not exactly new, but I think it's really made a lot of progress over the past couple of years, is the Mapbox Navigation SDK. And when we set out to create a navigation SDK, it wasn't like our Maps SDK where there was a ton of prior art in the industry, and we had an understanding of what developers would expect in terms of the form factor or how they would want to work with such an SDK. We were really going out on a limb when we created it to see, could we create a navigation SDK for building custom experiences? Would that actually work? Is it something that developers would want? And also, would it apply across industries like automotive and logistics and mobile cloud? And I think finally, in the past couple of years, we've really seen and gotten the feedback from our customers that yes, it is really working to help automakers put cars on the road, help massive delivery fleets like DoorDash have their drivers do their deliveries in a really efficient way. And then we see smaller customers and developers building outdoors applications, backroads applications, applications to help pharmacies deliver their goods, or get fresh meals to folks. So we've seen the application of that SDK really take off and really picked up by developers, and it's really taught us a lot about what we could improve to make the experience even better for folks. And so just one example of one of those insights has been the new UX framework that our team has worked on that really makes it much easier for our customers and developers to get a lot of the standard benefits and best practices of the user experience for a navigation application, but then customize it and override it to what they need in their particular application flow or task. And so we're really excited to bring some of those tools to our developers.
Yeah, I think just to close this out, I really want to underscore that point from Young on like what's really stood out for me over my first year at Mapbox is how closely we work in partnership with our customers and how much we're really innovating together collaboratively in a really delightful way that is unique to us and generates real benefit from all involved. So I know I've said it before, but I'm really excited to see developers building with the Mapbox Standard 3D basemap, which is also what we showcase in our AI tools and agents. It's much more than just a map style. It's a rethink of how to approach our map design in a way that balances the customization with ease of use while still offering our expertise and experience in designing beautiful, highly engaging, and highly performant maps. Standard is an example of how we're applying what we learn from our customers and developer community and apply it back into the core offerings of our platform. Throughout the week, you'll see how Standard makes some major improvements, not only visually, like our beautiful new landmark icons that just got launched, but also in how it stays up to date and how we continue to improve it. So gone are the days of having to make a copy of a core style and then having it get out of date unless you manually went into the style editor to make updates. We wanted customers to have access by default to the latest launches, like new terrain styling or interactive map features with pop-ups and icon animations. We're constantly listening to what new customization options our customers need, and Standard makes the developer experience of map design much smoother. I'm thrilled to see a lot of sessions about Standard on the build schedule this week, starting with a showcase from our esteemed guest from TripAdvisor coming up in a minute. We share a customer obsession for delivering a really slick and delightful traveler experience. Their team has been amazing to work with, and the collaboration has deeply shaped a lot of the latest and the upcoming updates to Standard. So I can't wait for you to hear more of their story.
Fantastic. A big thank you to our panel, Young, Cherie, Angela. Thanks for setting the stage for Build this year. And big shout outs to all the sessions coming up. And so next, we would like to invite everyone to a conversation with two very special guests from TripAdvisor, who have been a core part of the recently launched new map experience within the TripAdvisor apps. Jeremy Frisch is a product lead on the Places and Maps team, and Scott Pingeton is the Senior Director of Product of Core UX and AI platform. Joining them in conversation is Kieran McCann, who manages strategic partnerships at Mapbox, including the relationship with TripAdvisor. But before we dive in, we wanted to share a brief video showcasing TripAdvisor's recent brand refresh. So let's just watch that for a second. As you can see, it's a brand refresh that very much places the traveler experience front and center, and the Mapbox maps are just one of the channels by which they're doing that. But thank you to our TripAdvisor team for setting the stage. Kieran, over to you.
Awesome. Excited to be here. Welcome, Jeremy and Scott. Really glad that you guys could join us for this talk and to kick off Build. Yeah, just to lay some groundwork, I think this has been one of the most exciting collaborations I've been a part of during my time at Mapbox. Obviously, our teams worked really closely together over the past year. I think it's going to be great to showcase some of that and talk about the reasoning behind your decisions and the impact of that with the audience here. I think in general, we started probably working together about a year ago, even more than that. And then to see where it's come.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago was when we first started our conversations. And then just to see it kind of evolve from there, it's really cool. So yeah, maybe we could start off by just kind of going into the reasoning behind, what kicked all this journey off and why you guys decided to start talking to Mapbox and then moving forward with it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks, Kieran. And I think I speak for Jeremy when I say we're really excited about the progress that we've been making and the work that we've done in collaboration with Mapbox, and excited to be here to give a little bit of a sneak peek into how that work came to be. But yeah, at TripAdvisor, we're on a 25-year and counting mission to provide unparalleled traveler guidance. Our goal is to make everyone a better traveler. And from a traveler's point of view, a map is really one of the first experiences that someone has with a new destination. As they're starting to plan their trip, decide where to go, maps provide a sense of scale, the layout of the destination, and it keeps travelers grounded and oriented as they start to plan that trip. Travel is fundamentally about place and discovery and movement. So maps are really an essential medium and an essential part of any travel planning and guidance product. So maps have always been a part of the TripAdvisor experience, but we thought they could be so much more. They could work harder. We could be more targeted in the types of information that we convey on a map to really hone in on what matters most to a traveler, and really be an extension of our broader product in a way to convey guidance. So we set out, with a pretty clear and but ambitious mission in mind, which was to build the absolute best map for travelers. And so when we kicked off that sort of thinking and built some conviction around that vision, we were looking at, so what are the tools and the platforms and the partners that we need to work with to sort of bring this vision to life? And we pretty quickly narrowed in on Mapbox as a great platform and product that gave us the ability to kind of customize and tune that map experience in the ways that we thought would be most impactful for our customers. So we're really happy with the progress that we've made. I think Jeremy can speak a bit more to sort of how we narrowed in on that feature set and sort of what led us to that conclusion.
Yeah. So thank you for having us. Yeah. So, our goal was to, as Scott said, build the best digital map in the world for travelers. So there were kind of a few key principles that we tried to adhere to when we were looking at, what we should build and who we should build it with. So one was kind of this inspiration of a map that is like a hotel concierge map, a tourist map, kind of this illustrated map, kind of served as our guiding principle of what we really wanted a map to be, and we weren't seeing that out there in the landscape, and so we looked at which partners could help with that, and Mapbox clearly became the lead. Some other things that we were looking at was both wanting to show that hotel concierge map that really simplifies and removes the details that travelers need or don't need, and lets the landmarks and the things that travelers actually care about shine. So that is a little bit counterintuitive to, I think, some of the direction that a lot of the mapping industry is going towards, with this kind of hyper realism and lots of detail. Maps are just such a complex user interface, and stripping it down to what travelers actually needed was one of our guiding principles. The other thing, sort of separate from the technology, was that because maps are this very complex user interface, we knew we wanted to work with a team that had kind of the specialized map design skills. I'd come from a background of working on maps and working very closely with cartographers and seeing all of the very nuanced decisions they were having to make. Because when you're making a map of the world, you're making these decisions that really apply to at a global scale, and you're not going to always be able to tweak every little piece. You just have to rely on, when you're tweaking this zoom level or anything, it's going to have global implications. So we really wanted that partnership and design expertise, and that was really something that Mapbox could only help us with. So we there also the tech was a piece of this. So Mapbox offered unprecedented customization to kind of allow us to turn that vision of a hotel concierge map in digital form into reality. And when I first saw the standard map about 2 years ago, when it first came out, I think that really solidified the decision for me, because I could tell, Mapbox was really heading in the direction of a map that that was more abstracted than realistic, and allowed the landmark icons that they first kind of gave a preview of 2 years ago, really aligned with that. Okay, I'm trying to build a map where you can really tell where the landmarks are as you're looking around an area, and kind of orient yourself. And they kind of already had that vision. So yeah, and the design collaboration that we've done together over the last 2 years, basically, has really allowed us to get to this point. And yeah, excited to talk a little bit more about the actual features that we built.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just when you were saying all that, it's interesting how much of maps combine sort of this taste that's required, and then kind of an art, and then the science of the data, and looking at all the impact of the decisions. I don't think there's many fields that are like that close to art and science at the same time, and it's very different. Brains have to get together in the room to figure out some of these hard problems. So that's
100%.
So yeah, we talked a little bit about kind of the bigger picture vision and where you guys are going, and I think there's still lots of things that we're excited about adding, and we're talking about rolling out. But what are some of the specific features that you're excited about in this work that's happened so far in the new map experience that you built with Mapbox? And then what are some of the impacts that you've seen from those features and those new iterations of how the map works and the experience?
Yeah, so I think there's kind of two key areas that we've tackled so far. First, we just wanted to get a new base map out there. So we really focused in on what could we, once we went through the entire partnership process and we were ready to go, we kind of wanted to get a quick base map that really met those criteria that I laid out earlier of a map really built for travelers, hotel concierge map, that kind of moved away from the traditional map that's more designed for drivers, and has to have a lot of the mapping platforms out there that people are using every day they have so many use cases that they're trying to accomplish. And we wanted to figure out, okay, let's take the base map and kind of strip away everything that we didn't need, and kind of build it back up into a core map for travelers. So standard was a great base to start from, and I knew that it would kind of with standard and the capabilities of Mapbox Studio to really customize that piece. I knew that we'd be able to move forward there. So one of the things that we do, and you can kind of see in this animation here, is Mapbox Standard kind of comes with your typical like gray roads. And one of the things we wanted to do to provide a map for travelers who are just trying to find a restaurant or an attraction or a hotel to book was to de-emphasize that road network, so that all of that guidance content could come to the fore. So this took a little bit of work, and speaks to the partnership of a feature that wasn't available when Standard first launched to really be able to handle this white road network, but we worked together and then we're recently kind of able to enable that more de-emphasized road network, and I think it makes a huge difference to travelers. So that was one of the pieces. We really utilize Mapbox's POI layer to kind of fill in the content around our attractions and restaurants and hotels POI. So as you zoom in, at a lower zoom level, you see transit stations. At some point, I'd love to actually have the transit network in there. So that's a future area we're working on together. But the transit stations really help. And then as you zoom in and get closer, you can see things like convenience stores and other POIs that help orient a traveler as they're in that very high zoom level of being able to see where the things are and what's in relation to each other. We were able, with that brand refresh that we recently did, we were able to kind of tweak the map very easily to fit in with our tooling. And right now we're using a very top-down view to help our travelers really see the geographic area and what's in relation to each other. But we hope to be able to use some, more 3D views in the future. And even these 3D landmarks that you can kind of see where they differentiate the buildings, even on a top-down view, I think are really important to give the map some life and show here's something important and help people kind of navigate and see things spatially. So once we got that base map laid out late last year, we started working on redesigning our pins. Our pins used to be very static. They were just like a icon, and we telling you like what type of place it was, but it didn't have any of our guidance content in there. And so we worked very closely with Mapbox Cartography on this to create a much more rich pin that has not just the icon, but our ratings and our traveler's choice badge that shows the top places and text labels. So now users, it counterintuitively actually in some ways decreased the interaction rate of like how many people are clicking on pins, because now you could look at the map and see you can see the ratings and how they relate to each other, and find the actual place that's relevant to you, instead of just having to click a bunch of pins. So it made the map a lot more usable. And another kind of innovative thing that I think is really only possible on the Mapbox platform is I've always had a problem with how a lot of maps do clustering, where when you zoom out, you'd see, a one single pin with a number, and you wouldn't really be able to tell where dense areas of pins were, and they weren't very interactive. You had to click them to see what pins were below them. So we came up with this collision algorithm together and prototyped it with Mapbox to actually be able to show where density of places are without overcrowding the map. We didn't want to just throw a bunch of pins on the map that you couldn't really navigate, but we had this concept of a maximized and a minimized pin. And as you zoom in and out, you can kind of see that detail, but still see that density around. So yeah, I'll hand it to Scott to talk a little bit more about the impacts we've seen.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a big plus one to everything Jeremy mentioned. I will also, anecdotally, as a traveler who often travels with my two young kids, I think there's a bunch of things that we've really sort of been able to hone in on in terms of the map design to bring green spaces and playgrounds up to the forefront. Like that's, as far as I'm concerned, a killer feature, and I think that we are Oh, and also dark mode maps. I just love I love the look and feel. Jeremy knows well how I wasn't a big fan of our previous dark mode map sort of look and feel and usability, and I love the detail and the sort of richness that comes through in those dark mode maps.
Yeah,
Um,
and that
I love
was,
it.
part of what we did like with Mapbox is we were able to take that, yeah, there it is, that I think it's their dusk mode, which kind of gives a lot more contrast, and especially we focused on highlighting the kind of tourist areas of the map, so people could actually see like, oh, this is an area that I might want to go see that has a lot of businesses and shops and things. So yeah, I love our new
Yeah.
dark mode maps.
They're great. And just to in terms of like the impact that we're seeing, like Jeremy mentioned, somewhat counterintuitively, we are when we were testing the new pins and the new, map design, we saw a change in the patterns in terms of how people were engaging with maps. More engagement in general, and partially related to the fact that we also took this opportunity to think about in different ways how maps integrate into the information architecture of our app and website as well. We're seeing more engagement, but less of the sort of looky-loo clicks on pins just to gather information that now we're bringing right up to the map, layer. So there's more intentional engagement with the maps. People are clicking through and taking action. They're not clicking through to get more information then bouncing back and forth. They're getting what they need from the map and they're moving forward. And we're sort of seeing that manifest in terms of increases in bookings, increases in repeat rate, people coming back to use TripAdvisor, not just in general, but coming back to use the map, more and more. So really positive, signals. And I think it sort of validates that this was more than a visual kind of refresh. This was really part of an ongoing transformation to make the product more usable, more helpful, bring more guidance into it. And we're sort of seeing that, manifest in the impact in how travelers are engaging.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it all kind of comes downstream from what we talked about at the beginning. Like you guys have a very clear vision for what you're trying to do for travelers. And if you have a very clear goal, you can make the interactions on the map like very curated to that experience and, push people towards those outcomes. If you don't have a clear goal, kind of the map gets cluttered because the idea is cluttered, but you have a very clear idea. Yeah, maybe you guys want to share a little bit more about the nearby experience. I know that's one of the new pieces. If you guys want to share some quick insights about that. I know that was one of the more impactful areas as well. That was a newer rollout.
Yeah, I'm so excited about what we've done with Nearby and just the entire opportunity there. I'll try to be brief. I know, I think we're probably running a little behind time, but like when you take a step back, like the planning and the research and the booking and everything that happens before a trip is obviously essential. Those are very critical phases of the travel journey, but um, when the plane touches down and you're in the destination, that's really where the rubber meets the road. The stakes go up. You have a plan to do a walking tour, and all of a sudden it starts pouring, and you have to figure out in the moment, well, what should I do instead? Or you're planning to eat lunch in a couple hours, but again, family traveler here, like your kids are melting down and they need some chicken fingers right now, and you got to find a great a great restaurant to go to. Those are the moments that can really make or break the trip between you kind of lose a couple hours trying to figure out what to do, or you get a really you're able to make a really quick decision that leads you to something great in the moment. And so that's a space that TripAdvisor plays in. It's a space that we want to focus more on and sort of bring that lens of travel guidance to not just the planning phase, but to the actual like execution of a trip. Um, Nearly a quarter of our app users are using TripAdvisor to find things nearby and make decisions in the moment. So, and that's without a lot of investment and focus on sort of building those sets of use cases historically. So it's a significant high intent segment of users. It's a very core part of our strategy. Um, and one for which maps is just part and parcel of sort of how you deliver on that. Our previous nearby experience was very static. It left a lot to be desired. It wasn't even map centric. It was a very sort of static page where there was a map, but that wasn't the sort of grounding of of the experience. So from the start, we thought that was a perfect marriage where it's a critical use case for us to solve better. Our current experience wasn't really meeting the needs. It was a great showcase for everything that we were building with Mapbox and all the ways we were improving the map. It's a great place for us to apply all of that and really deliver an up-leveled experience. Our whole goal with that is to remove stress from the in the moment planning decisions, but like more aspirationally, it's really about helping travelers find serendipity when they're on their trip. And that's the unexpected elements of of travel are where a lot of the magic happens. And so we're really excited to kind of focus on that. It's a little bit like the backstory for why this was something that was interesting to us. But I think Jeremy, if you want to sort of talk about what we actually did there.
Yeah, and I know we're running short on time, so I think you covered most of it. I think the only thing to add is yeah, like this map experience you can see was like it was just a static map. It wasn't very engaging. Only a few users actually clicked through to see it, so it was a very kind of static list. And so if you go to the next slide again, you can kind of see what we built, which was a more traditional like map experience where the map is always there and there's a bottom tray list experience. And you can, if you want to look at the list, you can see the list. If you want to look at the map, you're able to interact with the map. And it's just a lot better experience, I think, for travelers that are in the moment and just trying to find that next thing to do, or the hotel last minute, like I had to recently on a trip. So it was very helpful for that.
Yeah, this is my favorite feature. I use this. I'm not really a planner. I like to just kind of go and do things more spontaneously. So this is perfect for me. Or if you just have like an hour or two to kill and you're like, what's near me? What can I go check out? So it's really awesome. I do want to ask one more question, which is, we talked a little bit about AI up front with our group here, and there's quite a few AI sessions throughout build. So I expect to see both of you in there. We'll see. I would like to hear what you guys are doing with AI. I know that there's this assistant work that's rolled out. How are you thinking about that? I think it's so new, and it's always interesting to me to hear how different companies are approaching that and making it useful rather than just doing it, right?
Yeah, from I mean, going back, I think a couple of years was when we really started to put a lot of focus around how we can leverage generative AI. Um, the ways that we saw AI impacting how we can build great experiences for travelers is really making the depth of the content and the insights, all the reviews and the tips and every in the forum posts. It's rich content that real travelers have contributed over years and years. We have hundreds of millions of pieces of content, and that makes it historically harder to sort of extract the insights and the tidbits of information that really matter to you as the traveler, based on everything that sort of your preferences, your sort of context, who you are as a traveler, what type of trip you're trying to have. And so we've done a bunch over the past couple of years to leverage AI to make it that much easier for travelers to get the value from all of that content that was in the past harder to sort of unlock without reading through lots of reviews and sort of again using your own brain to decipher what's most impactful. So we have the review summaries, we have a great AI trip building feature. The thing that we are really excited about, which is live and web right now and coming over the next few months to our app, is the AI assistant feature, is what we're calling it. It's a conversational sort of chatbot that is really tuned on, again, all of that content and data that we have, and is going to, we know that the interaction patterns and behaviors of consumers in general are very rapidly changing and moving much more to that kind of conversational back and forth to get information. And we think that fits really well with the way that travelers are looking to understand a destination, make decisions, all of that. And so that's like really think about that UI and that capability is really transforming our product and playing a really central role in how we convey, information. The like leadership panel at the start, I really love the commentary around with the MCP and sort of the ability to talk to a map. That's exactly the way that we're thinking about things. We want our maps in the geospatial sort of context of everything that we are trying to build to be integrated hand in hand with that AI experience. So the recommendations that you're getting from the agent or the chatbot are able to be represented on a map, or you can start with a map and you can start asking questions about it. So the maps, the AI assistant, and then our TripAdvisor rewards program, which we just launched, which allows travelers to earn cash rewards the more that they engage with the platform and the more that they sort of book and take actions on the platform. Those three things sort of coming together to really transform the product, make it a much more dynamic, much more personalized, more geospatially aware, product. That's where we see these sort of foundations that we've built that are really compelling. Taking those to the next level is sort of how they converge into a very intuitive product. So that's some of what I know I'm very excited about, and some of the ways that we're looking at least bringing AI into the consumer facing product on TripAdvisor.
That's
Yeah, and
awesome.
I'll just give two quick things since we're almost out of time here. But some of the other things I'm really excited about are being able to use the tile sets API to just make POI loading much more performant. I want it to feel like our places are really a part of the map and not have this like delayed loading thing that's always kind of bothered me about maps when you move around. So that's one piece. And then the other thing is just digging in even deeper into that, really a map for travelers and an illustrated map. There's a great map artist, Jenny Sparks, that I encourage everyone to check out, and Stamen's watercolor map. I just think like we've done a great job kind of taking the standard and turning it into like a traveler centric map. But I'm excited to go even a step further and use Mapbox and AI and kind of that human curation to make a map that actually feels like you're in the city and not just looking at the city.
Totally. I mean, and again, based on everything you guys have said, like when you have that clear vision, it becomes easier to build those things. I think that a lot of people are building out AI tools without a real purpose behind them. But if you have the purpose and the understanding of this is going to be the impact we're driving towards, I think that they can become really useful and really interesting. So in that travel experience, I think it makes total sense. It's a really good pairing. So, and yeah, the stuff that you mentioned, Jeremy, I think, yeah, it's always good when you have more stuff that you want to bring us that we can kind of get inspired on. So we're excited to keep that going. So yeah, thanks. I think this was a really interesting conversation. We could probably keep talking for like 2 more hours about all the stuff that we've all looked at so far over the past year and what we could talk about going forward. But I think we do have a hard cutoff, so I'm going to pass it back to Marina. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. This was really interesting, and I'm sure we'll be speaking soon on some more of these future developments. So awesome.
Thank you so much, Kieran. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Scott. I can't wait to plan some trips with TripAdvisor. And I do encourage folks, if you're excited to learn more about Mapbox Standard, plenty of sessions this week all about customizing Standard and using that platform. So this concludes our kickoff keynote, but we're rolling straight into more build sessions. Up next, join us for our first builder workshop about getting started with Mapbox GLJS, followed by presentations on what's new from Mapbox Maps, search, and navigation. as well as a launch of the Mapbox Feedback Agent. So head back to the Zoom event lobby to find the next session today and throughout the week. We'll see you there. Thanks so much, everyone.